How we doing, everyone? We are here in Germany, of all places. We're in
How did we get here?
How did we get? I don't know. Well, we could tell you all about that, but we're in Europa Park. That is the backdrop that you see behind us. There's a little bit of what I would call like a big lake area, I guess you could say.
There's boats and everything.
Yeah, there's boats and all sorts of stuff. We're in an amusement park. And we're here for CloudFest 2025. Specifically, we're here for the hackathon. We're here for the main event. Main event is wrapping up tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yep.
So we have a lot to chat about. And we'll go through the whole gamut of everything here. I have Christian Taylor, a.k.a. Krayler, from YouTube. He'll be tagged. Make sure you check him out in the description, everything like that, wherever we post this. But we're excited to just have this chat because we kind of want to recap our experience. This is my first time at all this. It's Christian's second time, I believe, right? So lots going on, and it's very interesting because depending on who you are, this is something that you might want to actually come to in the future. And there's also going to be a USA counterpart and all sorts of stuff. We've just learned so much. We've experienced so much this week. So we really just want to sit down and have this chat with you. You know, we'll have, if you want to skip around, there'll be like timestamps and everything in the description if you want to check out certain pieces that you're interested in. And again, leave comments if you're interested in other stuff that we don't cover, because we're outside. You know, it's a beautiful day out, but we don't know how long cameras will last, all that sort of stuff. We're just going to have a nice little chat here. So, Christian, thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, we've had a hell of a week so far. And maybe we should just start kind of at the top a little bit. So, for those of you guys that don't know, you probably know that I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Christian is from Nashville, Tennessee. So we had a fun time getting here. You want to recap to folks on just kind of like what your experience was like to a degree, Christian, on traveling across the Atlantic?
Yeah, it was quite a journey. It was more complicated than it needed to be because I just went for the cheapest ticket. Yeah. So I went Nashville to Chicago, Chicago to Toronto, Toronto to Frankfurt. Could have done it with one connection, but you know, I like to go for the cheapest flight.
Yeah.
But it was pretty smooth sailing overall. I will admit, I did splurge for the first time ever. I upgraded to premium economy.
Premium economy.
For the long flight, the overnight one. I think it did help me sleep. I've always wondered, is that extra 3 inches of recline really going to do anything? Because I sleep terribly in economy. Yeah. I managed to get more sleep, but it's odd because in the end, I think I had a harder time getting to sleep once I was here. Mm-hmm. So I'm reconciling all this in my head, like, was it really worth it? Because, yeah, it was a more comfortable flight, but I almost feel like it made the jet lag worse in some weird backwards way. Yeah. But, you know, it was a journey. Yeah. We're here. I want to hear about yours, though, because you went even more bougie than I.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So I upgraded last minute as I checked in for that second flight. I was going from Pittsburgh to Newark, New Jersey there. And then that leg over into Europe they were both with United, and I upgraded to what they call the Polaris business class, which is the lay down flat seats and all that stuff. It was originally like $2,300, got it for like $800 or something. So I had to. I mean, I feel like I had to. I've only been to Europe. I've only been across the Atlantic one other time, and that was awful, like absolutely awful. 10-hour flight to Rome. My second time on an airplane. It was really, really, really bad. I was really dreading that. So funny story there. I actually purchased one of those things. I purchased a bunch of things. I purchased that like turtleneck pillow thing where like you put it on.
The one that like straps on.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like this.
Did you try it?
I did try it. I didn't have to try it on the planes necessarily, but maybe on the way back, depending on if I get the business class again. But I did try it like at home. It really does work because like you just kind of like sit here like this now instead of like craning your neck. So that's really good. I also bought that thing that you inflate and you put on the tray table and you like put your head down.
Those are weird.
They are weird.
Those are odd.
I was like, I need to try everything. So sort of like literally putting myself to sleep, which I actually did consider thinking about for one of my next trips or something. Because I as you know, I mean, the viewers don't know yet, but I got this lay down seat, and it was fantastic, but I still didn't even sleep. So, I mean,
did you feel it was worth it in the end?
I do still feel like it was worth it. It was an incredible experience. You should have seen me. I wish I would. I did record some things, and if you guys are watching on the channel, like there'll be other videos and live streams and stuff where I'll go over it. But like I recorded some clips on our new cameras here, and I was like, as I was getting into the seat, I was just completely dumbfounded. You know how when you get on a plane, and you're sitting down, you're putting all your stuff away, and you're like the experience is so different because you're sitting up in that front part, and you have so much room. You're like in your own little cubicle. And I was just sitting there like I couldn't move. Like I was just thinking like, where do I put this stuff? Everybody's like, seemed like they've been there before. They're like moving stuff around, getting everything settled.
Yeah.
It was a weird experience. I should have like, I wish I had like an action cam where I could have done all this stuff. But yeah, we got here, didn't sleep. We got here early in the morning. Your experience was different though, because you came here early and you were in Frankfurt.
Yes.
So how did you end up? Because for you guys that don't know, like Frankfurt is a few hours at least.
Yeah, I think
north.
2.5 hours by both car and train. I think it's a similar amount of time.
Yeah. So like, what was your experience like once you finally got to Germany and Frankfurt? How'd you get down here?
I got here by train, and honestly, it was smooth. I feel like I'm jinxing the way back. Yeah. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, the train system here is a hot mess," and good luck. but it was perfect for me. Yeah. Super smooth. So I took the subway from my hotel to the main train station, and then it was just one long distance train to Offenburg. The CloudFest has buses that can pick you up there, but weirdly enough, they don't run during the hackathon. So I had to take a regional train then from Offenburg to the Europa Park station. Then I still had to take a bus to the hotel.
Jeez.
So I was a little bit nervous about the bus because it's a public bus. I think it runs once an hour. They only accept cash. And I'm not from here, so I have no idea how you would call a taxi. Yeah. And they don't have Uber out here. So that was a little bit scary. I was like, I'm fully dependent on this random once an hour bus.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. It was smooth sailing. I think last year helped me because I went through the train process and learned about the bus timing and everything. Yeah. Hopefully the way back is equally smooth.
Yeah. Wild. You have to go right back the same way, pretty much?
Yeah, so I'm staying in this little village town outside of Frankfurt. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like one train stop away from the airport. Yeah. So it'll be a slightly different way back, but pretty much the same right up until where the airport is.
Holy cow, man. That's wild. That's one of those things where like I was like a little apprehensive about coming here just in general because I hadn't been to Europe. You are younger than I am and fearless with this international travel shit. Like that's amazing.
Maybe the older I get, I'll start being like, no, I just want the direct bus from Frankfurt to CloudFest.
That's wild. That's awesome.
I enjoy. I want to feel like a local and experience the transit. I don't want to just call a taxi and overpay to get to my destination.
Yeah, no, I understand. So, I mean, trips aside, I mean, for me, it was. I flew into Munich actually, and then I met the grade team there who flew me out here. Shout out to them. And then we drove. I spent a day in Munich, which is crazy. Have you been to Munich?
No.
Okay.
Did you like it?
It was pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of history there. I think that I'm not like a history buff, so I appreciate it, but I don't have all the context. So like Mark Weisbrod from grade was like walking me around 10,000 steps in 2 hours, just like moving around all the different things that we could see there. Cause there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of history and really cool. But yeah, I have a lot to learn, as far as like all that sort of stuff. A lot of stuff to see. It's an incredible place over here, incredible country, but even more so a continent. There's just again, history rich. But had some good food at a local restaurant that Mark Weisbrod's wife is like manager at and everything like that. So I had some authentic German schnitzel for the first time. Fantastic.
Okay.
Along with a lot of other good things. So got my fix right away there. And again, like I landed at 7 a.m. and I did take a little bit of a nap, a few hours, and then I slept, and then I came back and I slept at like 9 p.m. and then I slept like for one more hour in the morning because we had to leave at 6. So the jet lag was a little rough. And I know that you had, how was yours in general? I know it was kind of like sustained here and there, but.
Yeah, mine was a little rougher than normal. I think, again, because of that seat, because I slept better. Yeah. So like when you fly east, you're asking your body to go to bed earlier, which is theoretically more difficult than going west where you're trying to stay up late. Yeah. And I think like normally if I don't sleep well on the plane, I am so exhausted when it gets to bedtime. Even if it's 6 hours earlier, my body's just toast. I go right to sleep. But because I got a few more hours of sleep on the plane and was sort of rested in the morning when I arrived, my body was like, well, I'm not tired yet. It's bedtime's in 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit rough probably lasted 3 or 4 days on this trip, but I don't know. I feel like I'm just used to the effects of jet lag by now. You just deal with it.
Yeah.
So
I would say I am not, because you've traveled a lot more than me. But at the same time, I feel like if you're like somewhat smart about it, I probably could have been a little more optimal. But after a day or two, you start to feel like, okay, like obviously enough to function. I mean, we were running around, we were doing so much stuff, so it kind of like wanes off a little bit. You just don't feel like your normal, routine self. I feel like to some degree. So it is what it is. But we get here, and I think the first day, like the first actual real day there, was Saturday, right?
Yep, Saturday was the hackathon kickoff. Kind of kicked off Friday night. There was the buffet and drinks at the bar for anyone who was already there. But Saturday's when you rolled in. Yeah. And that was kind of the official start. Yeah.
So here's where obviously we're going to get into like the actual programming. And again, just for you guys that don't know, there is 2 parts to this. There's the hackathon, which takes place on, welcome on Friday. Saturday, Sunday is like working. And Monday is kind of like a little bit of work, but ultimately just kind of the wrap up and the award celebration, everything. But that coincides with the main CloudFest event. And depending on, again, who you are watching, you're going to want to go to either or both for different reasons. So we'll cover all of that. But it's really it's a full event. There's a lot going on. There's a big festival. It's in a park, obviously, like a lot of it. So there's just so much going on. And again, it begins with the hackathon. So you, Christian, first time hackathon. You were here for the main CloudFest last year, but not the hackathon. So, we have a whole history here of the last couple months of like talking to the organizers and stuff like that. But can you give the audience just a little bit of an idea of what the hackathon is, just at a high level, and then we can dig into it?
Yeah. So the hackathon's interesting because a lot of people will assume you're hacking, rightfully so. It's in the name. Yep. What are they hacking? Is it about security? And I think there were 1 or 2 projects focused on security, but it was 10 projects total. Some of them were focused on building stuff in AI. Some were accessibility. Some were just optimization in general. There were a few on security, but really what the hackathon is about is developers coming together, working on a set of predetermined projects. They have, I think, just over 48 hours to do the work, and everything they do is open source. So one of the projects was about making infographics on pages more accessible, and they were able to build one for WordPress, a plugin, like a WordPress block to do this. So it's not just about hacking and security. It's sort of making the open web better through various different projects.
Yeah. And I just want to point out right here above us, if you can still see this in the shot.
Oh, there it goes.
Nice monorail.
We're not at Disney, but they do have a monorail.
They also have a lot of other stuff that they may or may not have stolen from other United States parks, but that's off the, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. It's just like there's a lot of commonality. Anyway, sorry for that little break there. I think the one thing is, I appreciate the overview of Hackathon. We'll dig into it. One thing I think we should probably mention off the top too is why we were here specifically, in what capacity, right? The entire weekend we were rolling around with these VIP badges, if you can see those on the camera, and cameras and microphones and everything. We were official media partners when all the dust settled between the organizing. We were official media partners for not just the Hackathon, but also the main CloudFest event. Now, we could dive into that. I think we probably should. Maybe now's a decent time to kind of dive into what that actually means and kind of what ultimately what we got out of that. There was a lot of other great people here working as well and kind of doing that type of thing. But ultimately, at a high level, was these events are really popular and really like powerful. Like the Hackathon's been going on for 8 years.
I think 8 years.
8 years, and actual CloudFest has been going for like 20 plus, I think, at this point.
Yeah, 21 this year. So they can drink.
Yeah, exactly.
In the U.S., I guess it could drink at like 16, where we actually are.
So it's up there. It's a full grown adult, and so I mean the tenure of these events is interesting. The media partnership side of it, I'm not sure of the extensive history of all that. I think this was like the second year, first real, I feel like, year for the Hackathon from what I got for media partners.
Yeah, I believe so.
So our job, essentially, part of our job was to basically take videos and get interviews and different things like that, and tell like stories basically from the actual things that were going on at the hackathon and also the main event. And I mean, we're sharing a lot on social. And we're going to, obviously, again, this is content that's going to be posted afterwards. But again, part of our mission here is to, at least part of my mission, and I'm going to let you describe yours because I know you had a very specific objective that, quite frankly, I didn't have a specific objective. Christian is much better at the game planning in this case than I am. But my thing is, I want to share with you guys, I was unclear of this before I came. I didn't know what this was about at all. So as a first timer, I want to kind of just see the lay of the land, experience everything, and then kind of report back to you guys. Because obviously we're on ground zero. You're not going to come to 2025, but maybe you'll come to 2026 if I say this was really good, this was awesome. Maybe like do this instead of this, or like certain things could be upgraded or improved or whatever. And then also like the team could continue to make the event great for 21 more years or something like that. So expect to see more of that. That's part of what we're doing here. Christian, if you want to tell the people a little bit about like what your plan was for maybe specifically Hackathon, we could obviously dive into the CloudFest main as well. But
yeah, so my goal with the hackathon was to focus on a few projects that really stood out to me. I knew it was going to be difficult to cover all 10 in the way that I wanted to cover them. So I picked 3 that I liked, that I thought would stand out to a more beginner audience, which I know I have a lot of beginners in my audience, non-developers, and I really just wanted to show my audience what is possible in 2 days when people come together, put their mind to something. And there's kind of 2 themes that I saw. One was just the usage of AI, and I give credit to Mark for pointing this out, but it's like all of the projects were either an AI project directly or used AI to get there. So I hope to share with my audience, like AI it's here, it's real. I mean, obviously it's been here, but a lot of people have been skeptical or sort of ignoring it. I don't think you can ignore it anymore.
Nope.
That's the theme that I saw at Hackathon. So I want to share that story and theme with my audience. I also want to inspire the next generation of developers because I do have a lot of beginners, but I even had a guy come up to me at a WordCamp and say, "Hey, I found your videos, started watching them. You inspired me to do a career change and become a developer. Now I'm here because of your content."
Oh, yeah.
That blew my mind. I never even thought that would be possible through my content. So if I can show people what's possible and what these developers accomplished in 2 days, the lasting change that I think some of these projects are going to have in 3, 5, 10 years, it's all worth it to me.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it was just kind of at a high level. It was really awesome to see the hackathon because, I mean, I feel like I knew what a hackathon was to an extent, depending on, they have them in all sorts of different, like, I don't know what you call them, like sectors, I guess. Like it doesn't always just have to be WordPress or whatever. I know so many other places have had hackathons, not just events, but their own events like that are all that. So I knew a little bit about it, but coming here and actually witnessing, seeing all the teams, being in the room, interviewing different parts of the teams after we saw like which projects we, kind of like that like resonated with us, and just to see everything that was going on there. Really cool. I don't know. There is a couple takeaways for me here, and I think this is really where, if you guys are interested in this, I think it's important to clarify, because I wasn't clear on this. Maybe it was out there, I just wasn't clear on it. You don't need to be a software developer to participate in the hackathon. Like there's a ton of other roles in each of these teams. And again, to set the stage for you guys, it's 110 people roughly, like this year, in a room with 10 different projects led by, I think it was 18 different project leads. So, some of them have 1, some of them have 2 leads, whatever. So that all gets settled before, and you can be a project lead, you can apply, you can do all that sort of stuff. We'll have more content obviously out on that, and just check the CloudFest website, CloudFest Hackathon, and everything like that for that. But these projects get set up beforehand, and the leads, have Christian filmed interviews. They're on the CloudFest channel for everything. They go over that. And then 110 people come into the room, and they are like, the first day, it's like, all right, here's the pitches for the project. So everybody kind of knows a little bit more. And then they just basically pick up teams, basically like a sport. It's just like, you all just like go to wherever you want to go for whatever project it is. And then they pretty much, maybe they do a little shuffling depending on what it is or whatever, to make them somewhat evenly numbers, like even numbers on each team. And then that you just roll into it. Now the key here, again, I thought it was going to be all technical, but really what you're kind of doing is starting, I wouldn't say it's a product or a startup, but it is a full-fledged package. It's not just the code. It's also like kind of how are we going to market it? How are we going to not necessarily sell it, but maybe like documentation and all these other types of things, because they want them to continue. They want them to live on. They don't want them to die. The term was like, we want these projects to outlast the weekend. I don't know if I coined that. I don't know if you guys can use that if you want, but like that's kind of the thought that I had there. And I didn't know most of that information kind of before going into it because of my first time, but I learned all that through talking to the teams and talking to the organizers, and it was great to see. And I think that just from what we saw in a couple of days, I think there's a lot of promise with a lot of those projects. So
yeah, I know some of them already have had a lasting impact over 2, 3, 4 years. So I'm excited to see where they go. I think the winning project this year has real potential to be utilized. I mean, a lot of them do, but especially the one that was the winning project.
Nope. We're outside. Bugs.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is, with the hackathon, just another couple other takeaways was that I think they said 400 applicants or so.
Maybe over 400.
Yeah, over 400 applicants for, to participate, and they only took like 110. So there's obviously a big pool there, but again, it doesn't really matter on your skill level or like kind of where you're at or your experience. It much more matters on like your motivation is what they were kind of talking to us about. So when you're filling out that form, if you do end up wanting to do that, make sure that you actually express why you want to be there, like heavily, and try to sell yourself in that regard, because that's how you're really going to get there, and that's how you're going to give yourself the best chance. So that was another piece that I would love to know if I was trying to participate in the hackathon, because the goal of the hackathon is, again, like we were talking about, make sure those projects continue to outlast and sustain and have, some level of a future. They don't just want them to die there. And that's, you got to have people that are motivated in that room to make that happen. And that was really interesting, because I thought they just wanted a ton more people there. I thought we were trying to grow this huge, and that's not necessarily the goal. So you gotta want it, really. You gotta want to be involved is kind of what I was seeing there. So, the wrap up to the hackathon, I mean, again, 2 great days of work. We were doing interviews and all that sort of stuff. The wrap up was on Monday, which is actually crazy too. Maybe we'll show some footage somewhere here, a different video or whatever, of us kind of getting them as the judges and the jury as they're coming out of this room. It's real cool. It's just a fun time, and they're coming out of this room, and they're coming back in to say all the awards. Is there 6 categories? I think 5 or 6 categories or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but somewhere around there.
But different, like who had the best pitch almost, who had the, a couple different things like that. And then obviously an overall award. I can't remember every single one. I'm sure it's going to be posted somewhere, but we know that the overall winner was the accessibility infographics team.
Yeah.
And that was, I saw that, obviously we saw it like in the wrap up, but I saw it in person as well, because some of the grade team was on there, Anamika and Jacob, and just very interesting. I mean, like that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's such a seemingly simple concept, but it's because the way they executed on it made it simple.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm like, wow, why wouldn't everyone be using this?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's going to have a lasting impact.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously accessibility is a huge topic and extremely vital. And then there's a ton of other, again, really good projects as well. But going back to what Christian was saying earlier, that was something that like every time during the presentations, I was hearing that, and we're standing there, we're filming, and we're doing all this stuff, and they're like, AI, LLM, like whatever, like we used an LLM to do this. And that's how the accessibility infographics one worked. There was a team literally building a peer-to-peer RAG, like basically LLM type framework, situation. So it was just, and there was a Fediverse project for meetup groups and stuff. It's just, I really loved seeing that. Now, I don't know if I didn't expect it. I don't know if I should have expected it, but I just loved those, I wouldn't call them like newer technologies necessarily, but they're more like innovative, just anything now with large language models or, diving into that Fediverse concept. Those are the ones that intrigued me the most. And that was it was awesome to see, because that was definitely a theme like throughout the whole thing. And obviously rightfully so, because it helped heavily.
For sure. Yeah. I had never heard the term Fediverse until the hackathon. I knew the concept, but I didn't know there was an official term for it. So that kind of excites me. I hope to see more of the Fediverse being developed because I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, 100%. That's I think it's something that we need, especially now. Again, the niche there was the meetups and like those types of events, but that could be extrapolated into all sorts of other categories. So, just a lot of cool stuff there. So that wrapped up on Monday. Now, I do think that we should sprinkle in a couple things here because I don't want to just talk about all the highlights. There's nothing bad, but just in general, like some things to be candid. I think where things could be not even necessarily, I don't want to say improved, but just like things that you should be aware of. So if you are going to participate in both, one thing that I would say off the top is it's slightly unfortunate that like they overlap, I want to say. I don't know a solution for this, okay? And it's not the end of the world. But I do think it's rough because like I think on Monday, we went over to, you got to understand the concept too, so I'll try to lay it out for you. There's different areas here. If you've never been to Europa Park, maybe bring it up on a map while I'm trying to explain this, and Christian's going to help me because it's only my first time here, and I got lost in this park today for 15 minutes. So I'm definitely not the best person to explain it. But there is Hotel Kronosar, which is where we were, which has a water park in it, and that's also a room in that hotel on the first floor. Well, technically the 0th floor over here, but that's a different story. There's a room, and that's where the hackathon took place. Like the whole time, it was all in there. That's where it went down. So we would come down from our hotel room, we would go in there, all that sort of stuff, right? So that is the main place that we first knew about. But I'll let you take it away, Christian. There's a secondary whole other piece of this. It's a big village area, but there's another piece of it where the actual park is and the other hotels, and there's a lot more to it than just that. So it's important to understand that because the events coincide with one another and overlap, and you can't really be in two places at once. So
yeah, so there's like an official resort area, I would call it, for Europa Park. There's, I believe, 4 hotels in that area. There's a monorail station, so you can hop on the monorail. It takes you right to the park entrance. So I think when they designed Europa Park, that was sort of where you were meant to stay. And then Hotel Kronosar came about when they built Rulantica, which is the water park. And I think because they needed more land, they built it quite a ways away. So what happens is on Monday, it's sort of the pre-CloudFest day. They have something called Agency Day in the morning. They have WP Day in the afternoon, and that takes place at that main resort area. So if you're participating in both the hackathon and the main event, if you want to pop back and forth between what's happening at hackathon, go hear a talk at Agency Day, there's not a great solution. It's about a 3 to 5 minute drive or probably a 15-minute walk.
Yeah.
So you'd either have to wait for a shuttle. Helps a lot if you have a VIP ticket because you get faster shuttle service, but either take the shuttle or walk. So I agree with what you're saying. I don't know that there is a solution, but it is a caveat to be aware of if you're going to participate in both.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, I believe this is a new Monday, right? They were calling it the new Monday. So I mean, obviously we weren't involved in the hackathon last year, but do you know if it was different? Because this might just be the first time this happens. In 2026, it might be a little different.
I think Agency Day might be new. I remember it being a similar format where there's the pre-events at that hotel area.
Yeah.
But I remember last year there was something on Intel and AI, like they did their own sort of private side event. There was WP Day. I don't think there was Agency Day. Could be wrong. The CloudFest team will know way better than I do. But yes, they did promote it as the new Monday. And I think they did great because it had a wonderful turnout.
Yeah. 100%. That's why we went over there, because we knew people that were going to be in there. I will say Monday, from where I'm from, and I think Christian is kind of like as well, like in the WordPress space, so there's like a lot of companies here. I mean, like we'll get into the CloudFest stuff. There's a ton. The expo hall is huge. I took like footage of going around it. It takes at least 15 minutes to go through every single thing. There's tons of booths in there. So my point is, it's not just like, if you're a WordPress person, it's not just WordPress. There's a WordPress people here and stuff like that, and other companies that you would know. But on that Agency Day specifically, it does feel very much like, I don't want to say a WordCamp, but it feels like that. Like that type of content is geared towards people that own agencies, geared towards WordPress people. And there's a lot of really interesting talks if you're familiar with that community. So that's why I wanted to be over there a little bit. And then we had to go back over to see hackathon wrap up and all that sort of stuff. So again, don't know if there's a solution there. It's not the end of the world. Just something to be cognizant of if you're gonna be in both, because you might want to experience more than just what's going on there. So maybe just plan accordingly, I would say, on Monday there. And then after that, on Monday, we finished all that up. Remind me, I'm losing my mind. What happened?
There's a kickoff street party on Monday night.
Yes. So the street party, and that was the one inside. This is where it starts to get really, really blend all together, because you're constantly in the park and there's a ton of stuff going on. Is that the one? That's the one in the park, right?
Yeah. So we were outside, but it was in the park entrance area. Mm-hmm. Lords of Uptime, the CloudFest band performed.
Yep.
And they have, the thing I love about the kickoff party is they've got like 2 food trucks and 2 different restaurants in the park that are open, all serving different foods, and everything's free.
We like free food here. I mean, who doesn't like free food?
Incredible.
It's unbelievable.
And there's free drinks everywhere too, like fridges of water, spicy water, or sparkling water. I love calling it spicy water.
It's spicy.
But Coke, Fanta, whatever you want.
Yeah, 100%. It's there's a lot of perks to this. And again, we didn't really talk about it at the top, but there's a lot of ways, at least in 2025, can't really speak to beyond, but you basically get kind of a free entry ticket to CloudFest, right? The main CloudFest event. And, that is something that I feel like is relatively unique, especially for an event at this scale. Like why, like how, I don't understand it, but I'm not gonna complain about it because it's awesome. So you can basically get a free ticket, depending up until a certain point. Like, if you're looking for 2026, make sure you're keeping an eye on that and maybe subscribe to their email list so you have all the updates and everything like that. But there is so much that you can do, and so much amenities, I guess, that you get from having just basic level entry. Plus, if you have a VIP ticket, then you can go in a VIP lounge. And this is again like what we're talking about with on the whole of like when we start thinking about the park, because that again, we're literally sitting in it here. It's an actual like theme park, but there's like rides open that it's just open to us. There was a little bit of a pre-opening, like as soon as we got here for just like locals and everything, and like public, open to the public. But once the event starts on Monday, right? I mean, it's open. So Christian's been riding roller coasters. I haven't, because I don't want to get sick. And then but there's a couple restaurants open in here. There is as we said, fridges just full of drinks everywhere, like for free. Just walk up and you grab it. It's incredible. So if you're into free food and you're into free drinks, it's kind of a no-brainer in a lot of ways, as long as you can get here. But yeah, a lot of amenities and things like that. And then that party took place on Monday. Great little initial like kind of dive into the park and everything like that. And then on Tuesday, the real programming, the main programming, I guess you could say, could start in the expo halls. That's the main really big thing that happened. Is now there's 2 kind of expo halls once you come into the main entrance of the park, and you kind of like just get either dropped off or whatever. And then there's a big convention center effectively. And there's 2 parts to it. There's a dome area inside to the left. And then on the right side is where all like the huge companies, there's huge companies all over the place, but that's where like a lot of them are. Is it segmented at all? I know there's a WordPress, a WP zone, which we'll talk about, but
yeah, I think the main room is not segmented at all.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So there's just a ton there. I mean, we walked around it. We got some free candy from some of the booths. A lot of really cool things. What are your main takeaways from let's just talk about maybe the expo halls for a second, like kind of like as far as maybe some talks that you saw, or just like the booths in general, like from all of your experience being at conferences, what's the vibe like? How did it feel for you?
Yeah. So the thing I like about the expo hall is I feel there's a very diverse mix of, I don't know if sub-industries is the right word, but, cloud is a very broad term. So I've been to WordCamps before. All the booths are WordPress companies. I've been to ICANN events. Obviously, all the booths are domain focused, but here you get some of everything. There is a strong presence from the domain industry. There's a growing presence from the WordPress industry, which we should dive into more later, but I'm really happy to see that. And there is also a presence from hardware infrastructure companies. So think CPUs, GPUs, even power supplies for server racks.
Yeah.
There's just such a diverse pool of exhibitors that I think there's something for everyone in the cloud industry, whether you're on the software side, hardware side, domains, hosting. It just seems like there's something here for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this is where as well, like as I walk around the expo hall, obviously we're here to experience it, but we're also here kind of, to do some level of a job here, right? Obviously share this with you guys. So I do continuously want to be transparent. As a consumer, as somebody here in if I put on that cap for a second to be like, oh, if I paid to come here or paid to travel and did all this stuff and like was coming here for a conference, you do have to realize that it is a conference and it's a big conference. There's a lot of people. It's a pretty big area in there, but first day, it was like sardines a little bit. So there's a little level of that. So just knowing what you're in for there. And I do also think that I don't go to a ton of conferences like this. I've been to WordCamp, I've been to but you do have to realize that you will not every booth is going to be like interesting to you. Obviously, there's, like Christian was saying, there's hardware companies in there, there's WordPress companies in there, there's other software companies. Like there's a lot going on. So, and there's big companies too. It's like Intel, they're giving away free candy, right? It's like there's some sort of level of presence and everything going on as well. So there's definitely some good connections to make. There's some good things to see, some maybe prizes or whatever, and stuff to win, here and there. But I do want to stress that there's a lot of different things. It's a pro and a con, I feel like, to some degree. And I think it's something really cool. Another point I want to make real quick is this one maybe goes to people that are investing into, maybe you're a sponsor and you're, watching like a sponsor into conferences and stuff. And I want your opinion on this, Christian. If you go to a conference, don't know how many you go to that you're not like obviously doing stuff at like this, but if you go to a conference and what incentivizes you to go up to a booth? Like if the one that you don't know, like we obviously know some people here, we're going up because we know people and we already have the connections. Random company that, maybe could be of use for you. There's a lot of domain companies and things like that I know you're like, what incentivizes you to go up? Because I think we could try to maybe help these companies out a little bit, because some of them I feel like are just paying money to sponsor and they're not getting the people involved. They're not trying to entice people to come over and actually hear their pitch. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. First and foremost, for me at least, it's the messaging on the banner, the signage at the booth. And that seems very simple, but I'm scanning the room going, where do I want to stop? And if I see a clear message that seems relevant to me, I want to stop by and see what they're all about. Now, the second thing, and I don't want companies to hear this too strongly because I think this is where people tend to lean, but I do think there is some truth to it, is just having something wacky at your booth that's so interesting that I have to stop.
Yeah.
Like the Kinsta booth had robots drawing pictures of people's faces.
Yeah.
You could stop by, get your photo taken, the robot draws it. In fact, I didn't do that yet, so I want to go back by their booth and do that. And even if it wasn't Kinsta, which obviously I know, I use Kinsta personally, love the product, but even if that wasn't the case and it was like a server hardware company, I would still stop just because I'm intrigued by this robot that's drawing things. But more important than anything, I think, is the messaging, really nailing it, being creative and drawing in a potential customer that way.
Yeah. I think, I'm again, pretty much echoing the same thing. A couple really interesting things, the Kinsta booth specifically. You got to do something though, because I think this particular event is interesting to me. There is, and it's hard to, again, maybe some footage if I edit this up or whatever, or maybe you could just like see it in some other stuff that we're posting. There is a physical boxing ring in the middle of this secondary, like the dome side of the conference hall. And there's a boxing ring. I mean, they got a microphone falling from what looks like a jumbotron of 4 TVs like wrapped around. It's got the ropes. It's got smoke when speakers are entering. I mean, they're going all out in the speaker part. Some people like the concept, some people don't. Maybe there's room for improvement, whatever. But the point is, like, it's pretty sick. Like, it's at least interesting, right? And now you have to compete with that as, vendors and things like that. You got to make sure that you are somewhat interesting, that you have something going on in your booth. Again, the messaging, and it's going to be different for every company for sure, but don't just a message to sponsors, because users and customers and people that are potentially walking around there, they want to see and be kind of pulled in. They don't want you to be salesy.
Sure.
Or they don't want you jumping at them, I don't think, and trying to get you to pull over. That's not, give them something of value or something fun. And I think it's going to go a long way. And again, I want to stress that last point too, because in a conference this size with these types of companies this big and, from all over the world and all that sort of stuff, you're going to get a lot of that as a somebody walking around, just like a person that just came here. And it's, you don't want that. You're definitely going to be turned off by somebody, jumping out in the middle potentially and just saying, "Hey, look at our thing. Look at our thing."
Yeah, I don't want your literature. I'm going to throw it away the second I walk out the door.
Exactly.
One question I have for you: do you find giveaways motivating?
I think it depends on the giveaway, and I think it depends on. Are you talking when you say that? Let's clarify. Are we talking about like where I give my email in order to potentially win a prize?
Yeah, so it's like, win an iPad at our booth, and then you have to enter your email to enter.
I don't do those too often.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I think they could be helpful. The trouble is, if I get my mind going on how I would actually do that, somebody could definitely give you a fake email.
Sure.
Unless they win it via the email, you know what I mean? So like that's one thing to be cognizant of, because I'm trying to again always see this from both sides, not just the customer, because in some cases I am the customer and I don't want to be, I don't want to have a bad experience, but I also understand and I'm empathetic. We're business people. Like we understand that you need to get people's attention and need to sell them things. That does happen. You have to do that. But you got to do it in a way where you're not coming across as, pushy. A lot of times, and because people don't want to see that. So, I mean, again, the main question, giveaways, I feel like they could work. I feel like it has to be relevant. Have you seen any that you like enjoy or that you were actually motivated to go with?
No, I mean, there were some great ones. I did see win an iPad, not at CloudFest specifically, but other events I've seen, drones, AirPods. Yeah. I just find that it's not worth the hassle, because the format typically is that you have to be back at their booth on the last day at a certain time. And I'm always bouncing around having conversations all over the place. Yeah. So the likelihood that I'm going to remember, it's 3 p.m., I have to go back to the Intel booth or whichever booth, I'm likely not going to be there. And then that means I've given them my email. Maybe they even called out my number on the ticket, but I wasn't there to claim it.
I'm gonna adjust my answer slightly from the business side. And I would say, this is assuming, this is a hypothesis, but I would say that it's actually probably not as good for the business as they potentially think it is. Imagine you get 5,000 signups on email, but none of them give a shit about your product.
Exactly.
Now you have 5,000 emails that are all like, maybe they unsubscribe, maybe they don't, but it doesn't matter. They're not actual customers. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of every one of these businesses. I don't know if it's just like a mailing list number that they're after, or what the case is, or they're just, law of large numbers, like volume. But if I was spending my money, I wouldn't buy an iPad and do that. I would definitely rather just give the people that are interested, that are somewhat qualified, or at least like super high top of the funnel. Maybe they don't like necessarily need the product, but the people that are somewhat, lure them in with something that is like some sort of free trial, or some sort of something that like the thing that they're getting aligns with ultimately why they would, buy from us. Or again, something that could further your marketing efforts, like a nice shirt or something where they could be a billboard for you. Make sure it's like somewhat quality and stuff like that, however you would do it. But that's, I feel like a random giveaway. What are they going to do? Even the person that wins the iPad. I mean, how many leads? Honestly,
how are you going to get?
We're diving deep into in the giveaways here, but a second, potentially, how are you going to get whatever it is home? Second thing is, if somebody gives me an iPad, I'm be like, oh, I won an iPad from them, but there's no guarantee that person's even ever going to pay you any money for your service. Like that doesn't correlate one-to-one. And then now you have all these emails where potentially the other people are going to be pissed anyway that they didn't win.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing. I don't know if I would ever do that, but yeah, that's a wild one. We'll have to ask some people we'll have to do that. Maybe we'll make more content on that at some point. We'll talk about like what companies that give giveaways, what are they seeing? What's the actual reality of that like? Because that's an interesting one for sure.
Right. Yeah, I have to give a shout out to the WebPros booth. They did a fantastic job. I went by there for a demo of WP Squared because I had never seen it before. Yeah. And they welcomed me into their booth, said, have a seat at this table. And the guy knew quickly that I was a disqualified lead in the sense that I'm not a web host. I'm not going to be a direct customer of WP Squared. But he got what I was telling him, which is I'm a content creator. I work with web hosts. I've ignored web hosts that have cPanel because I'm personally not a fan of it. And so I wanted to see a web pros alternative that's more what I'm looking for the end user. Yeah. He immediately got it and said, sure, let me show you WP Squared. He even offered to send me a test license if I want to spin up a VPS and just play around with it myself.
There we go.
So that was a great approach. Like, here I am mentioning web pros and WP Squared in content because I had a great experience. There's a lot of booths that it seems like they're too salesy and they're quick to disqualify you as a lead, and they sort of turn off after they get to that point. Yeah. I don't know if you've experienced that, but
yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason, I mean, I've gone to a bunch of booths, and I mean, we have relationships with some of them, so it's a little easier for pieces of it. But yeah, I mean, even here, the jumping out thing isn't that prevalent, but you know, I think it happened a couple of times, and unless they're giving something away for free, which a couple of times they were, people were literally walking around giving things away for free, saying, "Hey, scan." Like, that's a good approach. Don't ask for anything. If you're gonna solicit in that format, I just think don't ask for anything. Just make sure you're giving. You know, it's kind of partially what I think there. All right, so we're back. Sorry about the jarring angle change, but the sun, you probably could tell, was kind of going down. And again, this is what happens when you record in a theme park in Germany. So we're over here now. Hopefully, it's slightly better, but. Yeah, let's get back to the conversation here. So, talking a little bit, you know, about, you know, the general overall CloudFest, you know, the event, everything going through the timeline. Let's go back now to what maybe some of our viewers are more like, you know, more accustomed to or more familiar with, like the WordPress scene here. Now, I know that some of my people that are watching this, you great viewers out there, are going to be in that WordPress mindset, in the community, have seen a lot of that. Christian, I'm gonna give you a tough question here.
Sure.
If you are a WordPress professional, total loaded question. If you're a WordPress professional, you build websites for people, you're a product owner, let's talk about the pros and the cons and what to expect just specifically from the WordPress scene at CloudFest. What does that look like? Let's have that conversation.
Sure. So I think the pros are that you're going to be exposed to a wider pool of exhibitors who will still inherently be useful to you, like the domain industry presence and maybe other hosts that aren't WordPress specific, but, you know, let's say that you're a WordPress host. Maybe you want to have a conversation with some cloud providers because that might be something you want to use for infrastructure. I also think that in light of some of the recent events at WordCamps, some of that controversy, people are looking for alternatives. So you may run into WordPress community people here who have chosen not to participate in WordCamps for a while. And so as a result, you're just not going to see them at WordCamps. You may see them here. Cons would be, it's definitely smaller in the WordPress sense. It's I don't know how I would quantify. Like, can you think of a size like if WP Day and the WordPress people were a regional WordCamp, like how many people do you think? Like a few hundred, maybe?
Yeah, I would have to say so. So the whole event is 10,000-ish,
yeah,
somewhere around there, right? Maybe 10, 12.
But I think so. One other thing I'll say, this could be a pro or con depending on your motivations. While it is less people, it's people who are there for business reasons. So there's a lot of community members at WordCamps, developers, just like WordPress users who enjoy the community and they want to see their friends. And I love the community aspect of WordCamp. Here, it's business focused. So sure, maybe instead of 2,000 people, there's 500 WordPress people, but they're all there for business purposes, where I feel like half of any given WordCamp is just people hanging out for that community. They have no business agenda. So could be a pro or con depending on why you're going.
Yeah, it's definitely a difference in community. Like obviously WordCamp, I feel like started out very community driven, very like open source project area for everyone to get together and all that sort. And obviously it's gotten bigger. But I've been to one WordCamp. I think you've been to 4
or 5.
4 or 5. And I do get that vibe from that. So if you like that vibe, it is definitely a little different here for CloudFest. I would say it does have a business feely vibe to it. That said, though, I would caveat that a little bit with the fact that it is about business. The people that are here, like their businesses sent them here to get like leads effectively and show off their product or what have you. But at the same time, I'm struggling to think that every just person walking around in the conference hall, I'm struggling with the concept that they're all business people. There's definitely a lot, but I think a lot of them, would you say a lot of them are also like just kind of like tech head people? Like they're just like technical?
I think some are, yeah. And I mean, let's be real, you can get a free ticket. It's at a theme park. They run the rides.
Yeah.
So there may be a percentage of locals here in Germany who are tech heads.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I can get into Europa Park for free and see all these amazing tech gadgets.
Right.
I'm in. So yeah, I definitely think there's some percentage that meets that description.
Yeah. I think the main point again though is that this isn't like a community. I mean, there's a community, I guess, to some degree around CloudFest, people that like coming here and like, this has been going on for a long time. So there's people that are always going to go to CloudFest, but it's not a community-driven event. I definitely agree with that. It is definitely a business and technical-driven event, which is totally different than the other situation, like the other like angle that like a WordCamp is, or maybe some other conferences are. So that's a really big thing. That said, though, I do think that WordPress seems to be growing in some sort of footprint here. Obviously, as of late, there's different things like with WordCamps and other conferences and stuff like that. But I think with CloudFest specifically, I was surprised to see the amount of, WordPress people in like the WP zone. And especially, I mean, again, it's the whole day, part of it at least, like agency owners and WordPress. Those talks were all about things that were, a la WordPress, so to speak, like very, very around it. And you would definitely get value if you're a WordPress person, professional, if you're agency owner, what have you, freelancer, out of Monday, for sure.
Yeah, and I could say last year was my first year at CloudFest, so this is year 2. I noticed a significant difference in the amount of WordPress brands that had booths, WordPress people in general who were attending, and I know from talking to the team that WordPress is going to continue to be a growth emphasis at CloudFest in future years. So, last year, if you'd ask me, is it worth it for a WordPress business to attend? I may be on the fence, but this year I would say absolutely. And next year, I think it's going to be even better.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, from that angle, definitely worth it. On the whole, definitely decide on, for your own personal situation based on kind of what we're saying. And then, definitely go check out, all the plans for 2026 because things may change. But definitely, I think it's a good recommendation. I feel strongly that I've had a good time here. I think everybody that I've talked to has had a solid time. That would be in the WordPress space, and kind of beyond there. Should we talk a little bit about kind of like maybe the rest of it's? Well, again, to set the scene here, it's Wednesday, so we do have one more day. We're filming this on day 2 of the programming, so to speak. So there was talks going on today. All the expo hall and everything was still going on. But the other big part of this, and Christian, it's funny because Christian brought this to me early on, and he was like, "Dude, this is like a festival. There's like a lot going on." And I was like, "Okay, let's say." And it truly is like that. I mean, like every night there's parties. Again, it's a resort, so we have those different hotels and different locations and everything. And the first night was the big like party in the street, bands and all that sort of stuff. And then last night there was, if you had VIP, there was a VIP event which I was not at, but Christian, I mean, maybe. If you want to tell the people what the VIP experience is a little bit like, I mean, I do think if you're coming, you should consider the VIP thing. Again, it was kind of a perk for us because we needed to be in different places and do that type of stuff. But if you want a better experience, I do think you should consider the VIP thing. What were some of those amenities and perks?
Yeah, there's a few different benefits. The main one for me is the VIP shuttles. So you can get from any of the official CloudFest hotels to another hotel or to the park entrance in one of these vans. And it's not necessarily a private ride. There's usually other VIP people that need to get to the same place that are joining you, but it's much quicker than waiting for the main shuttle, which runs every 20 minutes, or walking or taking the monorail. So the shuttle, I think, is invaluable. You also get access to a VIP lounge in the expo hall. It is helpful for meetings because you're allowed to bring one guest in who's non-VIP. So it's sort of a ground zero where you can tell people, meet me at the VIP lounge. You can get them in. You can have a drink. There's a bar in there. There's also just sparkling water, spicy water for those of us who enjoy it, sodas and stuff, pastries, coffee. Anyway, great meeting space. I will say it does get to capacity during peak hours. So sometimes it's standing room only, which is not the most VIP experience.
Yeah.
Maybe something for them to work on in future years. But, between the shuttle, the VIP lounge, and even if you're staying at the official hotels, they give you special stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I walked into my room one day and there was a charging kit and like cable organizer, a pillow, something that said VIP, like all these little gifts. And then also, like Mark was saying, there's VIP networking events. So last night was the VIP buffet. It was really nice. They had steak, chicken, fish, pasta.
Hard to get chicken in Germany, by the way.
Yeah,
so that's
apparently
It's a rare commodity. So if you're a chicken guy like myself, you definitely
go to the VIP buffet.
Yeah, 100%.
But, the dessert spread was insane.
I missed out.
There was champagne at every seat, like already poured when you got to your table.
Oh my God.
And then 2 separate wine glasses, one for red wine, one for white wine.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, so I was paying attention to the pattern. There was a larger glass and a smaller glass. Anyone who had white wine, they poured in the smaller glass. The larger one was the red wine glass. Weird nuance about wine that I learned last night. But it was just crazy. Like the servers were walking around with wine bottles, just topping people up constantly as they would be finishing their wine. But the dessert spread was incredible. They had tiramisu, cake, ice cream, pudding. Like,
oh my gosh.
It's like, you've seen some of the buffets here, but imagine that, but like 3 times the options.
Oh my.
It was absurd.
Damn. Well, that made me feel bad because
I think there's another VIP buffet tonight at the Coliseum.
Are you serious?
I think so.
Oh my gosh. I have to. I don't know if I can. But anyway, get VIP if you want all that experience. I don't know what to tell you. But maybe next time I'll hit that up. But that sounds fantastic. The couple things that I had about VIP, I think you mentioned a little bit of it. The VIP lounge does get a little crowded, but it's a beautiful area. Again, I got some footage of it. There's a beautiful ceiling. It's got like starry ceiling. It looks great in there. There is some comfortable places to sit. There's a bunch of high top tables. It's definitely worth it. Definitely a good place to have a meeting or maybe even do some work depending on what your situation is. Full bar and everything in there. I will say this is a quirk. This is a me quirk, but I'm so used to literally every 5 seconds going into one of these refrigerators and grabbing a water, American water, by the way, not the spicy water, but grabbing one of these waters. For some reason, I don't know if it was overlooked. There's nothing in there, but again, as Christian informed me, you can just go up to the bar. It's just a different experience than you're used to literally everywhere else. So I thought that was a little interesting, but a great experience overall with that. The layout and everything. Again, we don't need to go into like deep details here, but the layout of it, it's actually where the lounge is not in the expo hall. It's outside, and then you go down like a little bit of a walkway. I think is there a way to get through it from the expo hall as well?
No, you have to go outside.
Yeah, so you go outside and you go down the hall, or you go out the outside walkway there. It's actually right next to. You can literally go out into a foyer and then go into a speaking, like the .com ballroom. Like I just did this today. I was filming. I was just walking around the whole place filming. And you walk out of the VIP lounge, which it's loud in there. I mean, people are talking. And then you take 5 steps to your right. You go through a door and there's a huge ballroom with talks going on stage. The whole layout of this place is so intricate. It's just wild. But yeah, I mean, VIP is pretty cool. A lot of really good networking experiences, depending on what your goals are. Anything else nightlife related? Obviously, that was all VIP related. But every night there's something to do. It's not like you have to get VIP in order to be doing something. There's always stuff going on.
Yeah, there's still always free food available at any of the events with a regular ticket.
Yeah.
Live music. Tonight, I think there's going to be fireworks. They did fireworks last year, but I know they went bigger because it was the 20th anniversary. So I'm slightly unclear on, do they do fireworks every year?
Yeah.
But I think so, because I've heard people say there's going to be fireworks tonight. And it truly is like a festival. The area where they have the band, it's a sizable stage, probably a few thousand people in the middle of this ring that's at the Hotel Coliseo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something for everyone Nightlife-wise. There's a bar this year sponsored by .cloud, and the bar, the way they frame it in the app, they send a push notification every night and say, the .cloud bar is open until very late.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So, I mean, I hear stories of people that are out till 2, 3, 4 a.m. That is not my thing.
Not me.
But if you're into that kind of nightlife, you're going to love it at CloudFest.
Yeah, I'm too old for that, but... Yeah, there's literally too much to talk about in this video, because there's an app too as well that, like, you at any point you could just go on and see when all the things are, like any of the talks and all the different stuff going on. So I would, again, it's a free app. Just like go download that if you're gonna be here. Then the nightlife in general. I mean, the issue that you're going to have with the nightlife is there's too many things to do. That's quite frankly it.
Yeah, you can't do it all.
Yeah, if you're a VIP, then maybe you prioritize the VIP one. For somebody, potentially like us, like we might be having meetings or we might be with other people that we know that are here. So I don't know. I actually, funny thing, this is the silliest thing that I was ever gonna post on X, because I deleted it immediately. But I was like, an idea for conferences: get everyone that you know that is going to be there in a group chat, so you can like coordinate where you're going to be at night. Like, especially at an event like this where there's 15 different places to be.
Yeah.
And you don't all have to go to the same place. But like, my problem is I don't know what the options are sometimes, because there's too many.
Yeah,
And it's like you want to prioritize whatever your goals are. If you're trying to meet certain people, connect with certain people, or just kind of what food you're going to get, right? Because that, depending on what that's like. But yeah, just a lot of different options. One thing I want to talk about real quick that I thought of as we were talking about the free food is, we don't have to go like specific in numbers, because the prices might change and stuff like that. But as a pure consumer, somebody that's just coming here to like kind of walk around and experience, make connections, look into different products and all that sort of stuff, and just visit the park in general too, relatively affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, free ticket.
Yep.
You could get a free ticket if you just go to the website and you do the little discount code and stuff like that, or you find someone else that has a discount code or whatever. You could definitely almost always, at least this year, get a free ticket. You aren't going to have to pay for drinks. You'd be silly to have to pay for a drink. You probably aren't going to have to pay for food. I mean, there's all sorts of different stuff, unless you're like, either picky or you have certain dietary things or whatever. I'm sure they could accommodate for some of that too, but you're probably not going to have to pay for food. You would have to pay for travel, and you'd have to pay for a hotel. And if you stay in an official hotel, I imagine it's slightly more expensive than staying maybe somewhere off-site. But you're also not going to have to pay for like travel around, because you're going to be so close, or you're going to be at a shuttle or what have you.
Yeah, there's also, I believe, all the official hotels include breakfast.
Oh, there you go too. Breakfast was good too at the Kronazar.
Yeah,
very good,
very elaborate buffet.
Oh my gosh, that place is huge, unbelievable.
So you touched on something that I think we should discuss, which is, we're both from America, traveled a long way to be here. If other people are watching from the States or Australia, other parts of the world where it's a long journey to get here, why should they consider CloudFest in Germany specifically over another maybe similar event closer to them?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think we're going to end up being potentially a part of, like Christian and I and others, because there actually is the first place my mind goes here is there is a USA counterpart to CloudFest, and it's been how many years? 2 years?
3 or 4 maybe?
Yeah. And it's now getting kind of like a revamp, and it's going to be, potentially like a lot more, like a lot more strategized. It's moving to Miami in November of 2025. So if you're watching this and you're interested, we'll keep you updated on that, because we're probably going to end up being there as well. So the idea is, the question specifically here is, why would they consider this? I mean, this is a full-fledged experience. Like I haven't been to many other conferences like this. Christian can speak to it more, but there is for somebody that doesn't like, I'm somebody that has traditionally not liked to travel and I've been to Europe. This is my second time. You get over here and immediately you're not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you're in, maybe you're in the middle of nowhere, depending on like where, like what you consider this as Germany perspective. But my point is like the actual place that you are in here, this resort and everything like that, there's so much to do, whether it's business or just kind of leisure here, that I'm not really sure how many other conferences can really compete with this. It's very much about the experience and the festival. And even before I came, people were telling me that. So you've been to way more conferences. Do any even compare from an experience perspective? Sure. Like, the talks and things like that, that is definitely separate, but
yeah, nothing competes with the scale of this. So I've had some incredible experiences at conferences. Domain Days Dubai would be right up there with CloudFest. It's held at the Marriott in Palm Jumeirah. Yeah. So there's a private beach for the hotel in Dubai.
Okay.
And like super nice hotel.
There's not a beach here.
Amazing buffet. Right, but it's different. Yeah. It's a much smaller event, about 300 people. Yeah. Obviously like a different sub-niche, domain specifically. So I thoroughly enjoyed that event. There was a VIP yacht tour that took you all around Dubai.
I'm going.
Yeah. But like it's not the same. It's good in a different way. CloudFest is just massive. Like the theme park, for any of you theme park junkies out there, Europa Park is twice the area of the Magic Kingdom. It's huge.
It's huge.
And where else can you get free rides, food everywhere, drinks unlimited everywhere, and like even it feels resorty because like if you're staying at an official hotel, at least it's like you don't really leave the Europa Park bubble. You go from theme park hotel to shuttle to being in the theme park. Yep. So it really is a whole experience. I would absolutely recommend it if it's at all relevant to what you do.
Yeah, 100%. It's I haven't experienced anything else like it. So I'm definitely now a CloudFester. I guess, I don't know if anybody calls it that, but I definitely am 100% interested in coming back in 2026 because there's just a lot of good things too. I mean, again, regardless of the experience, there's good things happening at the hackathon. The people that put that together, unbelievable. Carol and the whole team there, crazy amount of work, crazy amount of dedication to that. Great cause too, for charity and stuff like there's just so much. There's so much stuff that is good happening there. Not to mention all the people working on the projects and everything. And then plus the actual CloudFest event, really, really impressive. Just the turnout, I want to say, and the amount of vendors and the amount of, like sponsors and everything. So I don't know. I just think that I'm happy I came. So, if you guys are doing the calculus for yourself, obviously, ask any questions, drop them down below or whatever, wherever we post this, because we're happy to answer them. Anything else that you think that we haven't really covered? I mean, pretty much ran through most of the itinerary.
Yeah, I think we were pretty thorough.
We were thorough.
This gives a great overview. I wish I had this video before I came for my first time.
Yeah.
Which I think was partly our goal in creating this.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that there's that will, I'll say that like I was again just not, I had Christian to rely on. I could ask questions and stuff like that. Obviously you could see it, but I feel like when two people just sit down and have a conversation about what they experienced, hopefully you learn a little bit more from that than, literature on websites or whatever. And I'm sure we didn't cover everything, like I said, so throw questions down below. But that's CloudFest. I mean, that's CloudFest 2025. It's been a great experience. And, I'm super excited to see what CloudFest US has in store and also, next year's main event here in Germany. So, Christian, I also want to say thank you to you as well, because sun's going down. We're here in Europa Park. Appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me. I think this might end up going on my channel. If so, would you like to tell the folks watching where they can find more about you, everything you got going on?
Sure, yeah. I made it very simple, just Kraylor.com, Kraylor.com. You'll find links to my YouTube channel, other social accounts, some of my product recommendations, which I'm a big comparison guy. But thanks, Mark. I appreciate you hosting me and having me on and joining me here at CloudFest.
Hell yeah, brother. I appreciate all of your mentorship throughout this whole experience, because again, I was blind. I was completely blind going into this. So it's been great. And yeah, hell of a week. Let's round it out tomorrow. Hopefully you guys, hopefully we'll see you here next year. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And we'll talk to you in the next one.